Welcome to the County Compass, Columbia County's guide to news, voices, and perspectives, hosted by County Manager Scott Johnson. This podcast is your behind-the-scenes look at what's happening in county government and across our community. We'll talk about the services, projects, and decisions that make Columbia County a great place to live. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening to the County Compass. Now, here's Scott Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the County Compass, the podcast that keeps you connected to the people, projects, and progress making Columbia County one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family in Georgia. I'm your host, County Manager Scott Johnson. Today, we're going to shine our spotlight on an organization that touches thousands of families every year, Columbia County Community Connections. And joining me today is Teka Jenkins, the Executive Director. Teka, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
And let me just go ahead and say, I'm going to say this now. When I say joining me as Teka Jenkins, the Executive Director, I also want to say my friend. We have a great relationship. You and I met several years ago. We've been able to collaborate together. We've been able to mentor each other. And help each other, and you've helped the county, and we've helped your organization, and great to call you a friend. So great to have a friend in the studio. So a quick word before we dive in about our county. You know, Columbia County is growing, and we're growing fast, and with growth comes, the need to make sure that no families get left behind. And there are a lot of times that I've heard in my travels, and you probably heard this too, because what you do is kind of a statewide thing, right? There's several of these around the state, right? In your Columbia counties.
Indeed.
But I hear all the time, Columbia County's rich, and all the people in Columbia County are rich, and we don't have families that are in need and that sort of thing. So for listeners who may not be familiar, kind of give us the big picture overview of that aspect, and then what is Columbia County Community Connections, and how long you've been serving families here?
Okay. Yes, a lot. Okay. Well, first off, thank you so much.
Yes.
I am honored to sit in this seat. And it's a pleasure that I get to call you friend as well. You're an amazing mentor for me. I don't see how I've ever mentored you, but
you have. You have.
So thank you. Yeah. Our organization, although we're Columbia County Community Connections, we are the family connection of Columbia County. Okay. So there's a family connection in every county in the state of Georgia. So there's someone, I want to say someone like me. Well, there's a coordinator per se that the state has legislated dollars to take care of that person, establishing what's known as a collaborative. And so for the most part, we start off as a collaborative to bring together different people in the community to meet and talk about issues and focus on those issues. But we'll focus on bringing solutions to those issues. And ours is primarily families. How did we get started? Many, many years ago, Governor Zell Miller is who actually founded the and I want to be careful, and I want to misspeak, but he founded or established this initiative because Georgia, we were 50th in the nation with education.
Wow.
Which was not good. We were behind. And so they felt like our children, our families needed some supports, and that's how they established the Georgia Family Connection Partnership.
Wow. Yeah. Zell Miller was a great man. I still have the picture of him handing me my diploma when I graduated from trooper school.
Yeah,
I was a young trooper, and Zell Miller was a dapper governor, and what a great man. Did so much for Georgia. I won't go down that whole road, but the whole Zell Miller scholarship and the lottery, and all the funding for education and all that. And I didn't even know that Governor Miller did Community Connections.
Yes.
And how long have we been around in Columbia County doing this?
Oh gosh, over 25 years. We're closer to 30 years at this point.
Wow.
So Community Connections was established by my old boss, Julie Miller, who she at that time took us from being just a collaborative of meeting to a 501c3. So we became incorporated many years ago so that we operate as a 501c3. And and prior to her, there was David Titus, who was the coordinator of Family Connection of Columbia County. Yeah. So we continue to evolve. And at this point now, with us having this amazing partnership with the county, just like we're able to do great things in our community.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, we think about that legacy and all the impact that you've had. Let's talk about what really, let's talk about some of the flagship programs, I think, because you guys have a lot of programs at Community Connections, and I know that they're kind of growing. I know some of them after school, summer programs, food assistance, strengthening the family initiatives. You guys do a lot. So talk to me about some of the programs, and then we'll kind of dig into those.
Okay. So most recent and what we're recuperating from right now is summer camp. We run 2 summer programs. Our programs serve students who are in elementary school, students who are in high school. Our elementary students, those are Dream Academy.
Yep.
And our high school, that's our Camp Sweat, which is SWEAT is an acronym for, you like acronyms and backronyms.
You know I love that. Yeah, I do those all the time. Yeah. So what's SWEAT an acronym for?
SWEAT is Summer Work Experience for Teens. So it's spelled SWE for
Okay.
Camp Sweat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they get a chance to apprenticeship almost at, just for the most part, it's like an apprenticeship and experience at different work sites. The county has been a great partner. We've had some at the water department, not treatment. No, those are different departments. Let me not get those confused. Where they do, what's the pets? What is that department?
Yeah, animal services.
Animal services.
And our shelter, yeah.
Which has been great. And this year, 1790 Club was an amazing experience for our youth, our teenagers.
Full disclosure, my wife runs that operation there, and she partnered with you. And Susan, I think, has been on your board for some time and been very involved.
Susan has been great. She's someone who I also calls a board emeritus. Like, she's that person, even when she's rolled off, that I'm able to, ask questions because there's always something.
Oh, yeah.
And she's got great advice for me. So the Camp Sweat is one that's been one of our longest running programs. I think before we even established Dream Academy, we had Camp Sweat. And we used to run that in Harlem Library a long time ago, as Harlem was our initial fiscal agent many years ago. So, Dream Academy, those students who are in elementary 1st through 5th grade, we serve right there in the office, so we're the outside space. And it's a really cool program because we also have time to interact with our senior citizens who are like right next door to us. So
you guys share a building, right?
Yes, we share a building. So it's
so cool to have the seniors of Columbia County who are so active. They do such a great job at that senior center. Involving the seniors, and then you have these little kids that are there too, and then you're mixing the two, and I think they both love each other.
They do, and it's fun to watch. And summer is always a fun time. They can relax a little bit more. So those are our 2 staple programs, I would say. And then next, there's the Food for Kids, as you mentioned that. People, when we hear Columbia County, we think of how affluent the county is and how much money, and we forget about, or I don't want to say forget, a lot of people just don't know about the pockets of poverty that do exist. So when we are looking at numbers and indicators, we're seeing that number is rising just a bit, right? So it causes us as an organization to pay attention to it. That not that is huge when it is compared against the state, but it's just enough for us to say, hey, we need to pay attention to what's happening with our families. So we are at some point during the school year, we provide about 20,000 Saturday sacks per week. We do not do that individually. We do that through partnerships with our churches, a lot of community supporters, Addict Treasures, which is what are they? They're a thrift store in Harlem.
Yeah.
So they help support this initiative because we cannot do it alone. But we are feeding those children through the school year and also during summer feeding program as well. Golden Harvest is one of our biggest partners with that program. So what we learned most of all is that it takes collaboration. Like, we can't solve these issues alone.
Well, I mean, hence the name, right? I mean, Columbia County Community Connections, right?
Yes.
You're connecting people in the community. So you're connecting churches and other nonprofits, and you're connecting them with families and meeting the families where they are, whatever that may be. I mean, it may be a family that needs some after-school care because they're working families now, and then they don't have any place to go. And I've been out to your organization, I've been out to your space, which we're hoping to give a facelift soon. We got some money in our next SPLOS to really give you guys some more space that you really need because you've grown it, and we get out there and those kids are just all over the place.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're doing all these things and just meeting families where they are, really just connecting whoever you can get to kind of help, right?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention we do it free.
That's important.
It is very important because after school care, summer care can be anywhere between $80 to $100 a week. Last year, my daughter, who's starting all over, we had her in daycare and she was in a summer camp, and it was $215 a week.
Yeah.
Well worth it because it was an amazing program, but that's pretty expensive. A week.
Well,
and we provide
Uncle
that.
Scott's retiring at the end of the year, right? So and I love that sweet baby.
Okay.
So yeah, I might have to.
I
We
hear you.
may have to provide some services there.
Okay, I'll take you on
She
your
is,
offer.
hey, y'all, she is something else, y'all. I'm telling you, this kid is absolutely amazing. That's awesome. Let's talk about some of the other stuff you do. I know we do. You guys have the Parent Academy, Resilient Teens, Car Seat Safety.
hmm
You kind of even got into maybe, and I hate to talk about this, but suicide prevention.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
scholarships. So let's just kind of
Okay.
take those one by one and maybe talk about some of that stuff and what you guys do.
Okay, so the Parent Academy specifically is a co-parenting program.
Okay.
So we established that. I guess a little bit of that after my own life, being a divorced parent at one time,
Yep.
learning the importance of how to work with the co-parent, my son's my son's father, and to not just dismiss make our relationship. Let me word that right. Making sure that we were supporting our son and not focusing on the failed relationship that he and I had.
Right.
And so I realized how important that was, and that was something that we wanted to make sure as an organization we were able to support our parents as well, because we saw a lot of our families via after school or summer camp that they weren't necessarily two-parent household. Not that I'm not saying that that's a scratch on anyone's
Right.
life, but however, I know sometimes that can be a little bit harder, and specifically for the child. So we want to make sure that we're focused on relationships that were healed and making sure that the child was the focus. So that is a program that's been running now for about 4 years, and we're very proud
And when you
of
say
it.
program, is that like a one-time thing? Do they come in for like a counseling session? Is it a monthly thing? Is
Okay.
it just to get a packet?
Yeah,
I
great.
mean, how do I do that if I'm a recent divorcee and I
Yeah.
really want to make sure that my kids are being
Okay.
focused on, right? And I
Mhm.
need to work through this. How do I do that?
So it's you get enrolled, and so it is something that goes on for the most part. It's like a year long. It's
Oh, okay.
according to the funding, right? Everything is contingent upon funding, but
Mhm.
for the most part, it's a year long. We have had families who've been in it for over, like I said, 4 years. So the duration, because it's not something that just easily goes. Those issues go away. So there's services provided with it. You get the coaching as far as parenting, like how to have hard conversations with the person that you're not with, how to make it all about the child, that type of coaching. We also provide, as I mentioned, daycare, because some of them have younger siblings. So we assist. I cannot say we provide in totality, but we
Right.
assist with some daycare costs. We assist with some enrichment costs for those children because we want them to be involved in other services. So that actually leads me to another program that we have, which is our Resilient Teens program, in partnership with many other counties in our region. So just so that we can offer supports for those children, because when you're talking about divorce or just not being with that other parent, our children experience what's known as ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So our goal is to make sure that we're providing services that kind of combat those adverse childhood experiences so that they can have a more successful childhood, which will lead to a more successful adulthood. Not saying that it's perfect, but will help with those chances there. You mentioned the suicide prevention. Yeah, that's not a fun one to
No.
talk about. So as I mentioned about some of the poverty numbers, we've seen the numbers increase here in our county. And so that's youth and adults. And one life that is gone is just we're not happy about that.
Right. Yeah, it's one too many.
Yeah, it's one too many. So we have support from our coroner here,
Mhm.
the county coroner,
Yep.
who's
Terry
been
Norman does an
Terry.
amazing job.
He
He hit the
has.
ground running, and
Yes.
yeah,
He's very supportive of the collaborative.
yeah.
He provides us our numbers along with AU that we can look at, like what's happening here in local county data. So what we were seeing at least monthly, we were seeing a lot of it was white males that were ending their lives. So we're working on language when it comes to suicide. Back in the day, we've always said someone committed suicide, and the prevention field is teaching us, well, that's kind of cruel to say.
Yeah.
You don't know the type of pain that someone was experiencing
Right.
for them to want to end their life. So let's not say committed. Let's learn to say death by suicide. Or
Right.
they died by suicide. So that's an important part of this too. You mentioned our scholarship. Young sweet baby Ethan Noah,
Yes.
Grovetown Middle School. He is the name of our Ethan Noah Scholarship. He lost his life to suicide some years ago, and it's just raising that awareness, having safe spaces for our children, for our parents to have these conversations on what's happening, what do I look for, what should I do, and how or what are our methods of what's our safety methods? What can we do here? So we have not found the exact science to it. It's just an initiative that we're working on, and we know that our county needs it.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here, it really doesn't. There are really no boundaries here. When we think about community connections, a lot of people may think about, well, that's where the underprivileged kids go,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
necessarily the
not at
case. I
all.
mean,
Mhm.
so we're serving, other families,
Yes,
so it's not about how much money you have or don't have.
that's right.
It's not about the color of your skin.
Hmm.
It's not about the God you worship.
Hmm.
It's not about, where you are in society or what school you go to. If you go to this school, then you
Yeah.
can get in it. If you don't go to this school, you can't get in it. It's none of those things. It's really just a program for Columbia County families. Every Columbia
Yeah.
County family could participate or fit in some way into your organization.
Some way. Yeah, you're right. So some of the funding that now when it comes to our after school, we've had specific funding that you had to
Yes.
meet a certain poverty
Of
level.
course, yeah.
However, we were fortunate enough at some time when funding was great that we found support funding. We're like, okay, so it's just not those families. We want everyone. If you're you need help. I don't want to as my staff tell my finance director always jokes with me about I don't respect the dollar. Like I'm not trying to count anyone's pocket. I don't want to count anyone's coin. I don't want to assume that you have enough money, you should be okay. That's not for us to decide,
Right.
We don't know who needs help. Just because you see someone driving in something or they attend a certain school, you cannot you can't assume that they're okay. So yeah, I love that you said that. Thank you for making that known. And so when we have community donors who support what we do, it helps us. We're able to serve more of our community, like our firefighters.
Mhm.
The boot drive is absolutely important because with that money, we're able to serve the population that's not necessarily the as you mentioned, the impoverished or those who need the help. I
Mhm.
can bring in all children and serve them.
Yeah, and speaking of that, let's give a shout out to the fire department. I know you just did that,
Huge.
but I mean, I want
Yeah.
to go a step further. Those men and women of the fire department stand out in the heat and the rain
They
and
do.
whatever, and they stand out there with their boots, and people just drop their change in. A lot of times, they don't know what they're dropping their change in for. Right? We always do a check presentation and we raise the money, but we're raising for you almost $30,000. I
Yeah.
think was the last
Yeah.
$29,000. Maybe was the
It
last
is.
one.
And it's great money because it's not marked, right? It's not that it has to be for this or for that. So that's how I'm able to serve our other people. Fire chief, like chief he's amazing,
He is
and
amazing. Yeah,
supports
Chief
the
Wallen's
program.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yep.
supports the program, sees the value in it. And so to know that as you mentioned, they're out there dedicated, it's a beautiful thing to see. I always take my children. My son had an opportunity to see it as well, but now my daughter, like for her to see them doing it because I'm like, look at what's happening here. We give back. And I think this past year there are people who gave gift cards.
Yeah.
And our gosh, they're so amazing that they were able to say, hey, use this to whatever the children need that you can't buy if you don't have enough money to buy. Here's some gift cards that
Yeah.
people dropped off. So thank you all for
Yeah, and
doing
I
that.
think that's huge that we bring that up because a lot of times when they see the firefighters, they don't know what they're raising money for. They think maybe they're going to, buy a new grill or something to cook out at the fire station, but we're not. We're
Yeah.
actually feeding
Oh,
children and
yeah.
we're helping families and we're preventing suicide and all the other things that we're doing in our community.
Very
Those
real.
are all very, very important. Let's talk about the money a little bit
Okay.
because I know that's a tough piece, and you get your funding from a couple of different sources, and I've seen you scrape the bottom. I've seen you do everything you can.
Yeah.
You give a lot of your own. Not only time and effort, but a lot of your own money. When you're working at a job like this, you're supposed to be getting a salary, and then you end up giving most of it
Yeah,
back,
you're right.
or
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
it back.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about how you get your funding and how that works.
Okay, so I am not singular in this organization. I have an amazing team, that
Yes, you
I
do.
work with, and who we get to serve our community with. So my team, we're out looking for. I mean, I hate to sound like that, but we're out looking for money. We search for grants a lot, as a nonprofit. So we're looking for grants that are local, grants that are state, or grants that are from the state level or from federal level. We look at foundations. Like the money is always different, and money has different limitations on it. So we do that. We've not done a fundraiser in a few years. I'll say that much, because that's kind of not our style. But
Right.
I have an amazing board, And so my board right now, they're looking at, we're looking at doing a yearly fundraiser so that it can take some of the stress and the strain away from being dependent on grants. Because being about 90% dependent on grants is a very stressful space to live in as an organization, because you're dependent on what money is available and if you get it, because there's just not always a 100% sure thing to getting a grant. So our funding does vary. We have Chaz is our director of development, and development director, and she's out making the connections in the community. Like, so it's big. That thing that you talk about, getting to know people, telling them what you do, and just find out what happens.
Yeah, Chaz is a big personality and does great work for your organization.
Yes, she does. Yes. Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention my finance director, Vita. So she's like literally taking a 15 cents and she can make $1 out of it. Stretching the money, and finding ways of how can we recycle, how can we be more creative with what we're doing? So we've stretched a good bit, and please forgive me for not even mentioning the county. A lot of people don't know how we had this relationship with the county or how it started, because we had exhausted the city of Harlem, right? In the county offered a partnership at that time to get us to become our own fiscal agent, and that's been the game changer for us ever since.
Yep. And look, I don't want to take away anything from anybody on your staff.
Yes.
But I cannot finish this podcast without talking about Miss Betty.
I know Betty Kelly. I wouldn't either. Not at all. Betty Kelly.
Tell us about her.
Betty Kelly's our Dream Academy director. And she's been trying to retire, like 3 times.
I think she retired a couple times. Every time she retires, she comes back, right?
Yeah, because I need her. Like, we can't not do it, without her. We can't.
Yep.
So she retired from the school system.
Yes.
30 years, an educator. And came out, like, we realized no one can run the program without the efficiency, without the love, and just the sheer desire outside of her.
Yeah.
She had a restaurant in her classroom. It was called the Kelly restaurant. So she transferred that to the Dream Academy, which is the Dream Academy restaurant. And our firefighters have a chance to come in every year to be served by our children, because we do the shop with a firefighter. So this is their way to pay them back. And I think, this year we had a chance to take the Dream Academy restaurant on the road to 1790. So that was a huge experience for our children to be in a fancy restaurant outside of our back office, transformed into a restaurant. But
they did such a great job, and it was a good fundraiser. All the money went back to Community Connections.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. The kids did such a good job, and they all had jobs. You were either a hostess or a server, or we had some people. They couldn't do a whole lot of cooking, but they did a little dishwashing. they did what they could do, right?
So very thankful for that, and it wouldn't be a thing without her. So having someone with the love and the passion. So not only the fun part, but she brings with the education piece. We have when our children are at our summer camp, they get a chance to experience some acceleration, if they are the acceleration or the remediation, whatever is needed for their individual levels in their grades right now. As when they come to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'll just say, just talk about Miss Betty. Obviously, she taught in the Harlem area and taught at North Harlem Elementary School, and my daughter Katie had her in the 2nd grade, and it changed her life.
Wow, so nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's amazing lady, amazing
Indeed.
lady. So,
love Miss Kelly.
Well, that is awesome, and I hope she never retires. We're going to keep her going, and keep her busy.
I need her. She's that is like the strongest suit. I think that's the trick, the secret sauce to our organizations, our retirees. We also have Valerie, who's our coordinator, our Food for Kids coordinator.
Yep.
She's a retiree too, and they run circles around the rest of us in there. Because I guess the other professions that they've had.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So for anybody listening to the podcast or watching the podcast who wants to help, or if they need assistance, what's the best way?
Well,
either way.
Okay. So we have our website. I think that's the best way. www.cccc. That's 4 C's, 4 and the number 4 kids.org. So CCCC. Did I say 4 of those? The number 4 kids.org.
Okay, we'll try to put that in the show notes and maybe put up a graphic for that. That'd be great.
Perfect.
So reach out to the organization that way. They can call the office and ask for you if somebody wants to just talk to you.
Yeah, they can call. There's also email. The emails are located on the website as well. So whomever they want to speak with, they can get in touch with us. Yes.
Yep. And we're continuing our community partnership with Community Connections. I know that you're in a county building now. We're expanding that. We said that.
Huge blessing. Yeah.
Huge blessing. So we want to make this program bigger. We want to involve more people in the county. And we are looking for funding. So we're going to figure out ways to do that. And
that means a lot. And I know I've told you thank you, but as I mentioned, there are over 100 of us coordinators, and not all of them are as fortunate to have the relationship with their county government. So thank you all for being such, just great supporters of the work that we do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the incredible work that you and your team do every day. You're really helping build the kind of community that we want to live in. So that's awesome. So if you want to get more involved, listeners, again, visit CCCC. That's Columbia County Community Connections. It's 4 C's. And just remember, 4 C's and then the number 4 and 4, right? CCCC4kids.org. That's going to wrap up this episode of the County Compass. So thank you for joining us as we navigate the roads of progress in Columbia County. But before we end, Teka, we have this thing that I like to end my episodes with, right? The most ridiculous thing I've heard lately. And nobody ever knows what it's going to be. Sometimes I don't even know what it's going to be. I came in here hot today. You know that. You were waiting on me. Thank you for your patience. And that is because I spent yesterday in Washington, D.C. with the president, with Chairman Duncan and Cheney Eldridge, our executive director of the Development Authority. And we were there touting the announcement of 2 things. Yeah. We discussed the announcement of Google coming to our community now and what the impact's going to be there. And I'm going to just briefly mention how that impacts you in just a second. And then we also talked about the president's new pledge, a ratepayer pledge. The president is committed to keeping our energy costs low for the consumers and having these big tech companies pay all that stuff. So it was an amazing trip for us to be able to go up there. It was fast and furious. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the airport, flew to Washington, D.C., stay there all night. Plane delayed over and over and over, got back at 2 a.m. So it wasn't quite a 24-hour day. It was a 22-hour day, but it was well worth it. But to the most ridiculous thing I've heard lately. So when the word got out that we were up there and what was going on, social media started its thing, and there was a lot of pushback from social media about how this had been planned from the beginning and how this is a Republican this or a Democrat that. It's very polarizing. There are a lot of people that don't like data centers. But I will say that this whole conspiracy theory thing behind this is ridiculous. It's an economic opportunity. It's something that's coming to our country. And we heard yesterday, regardless of where you are on your political affiliations, we heard yesterday that our president is the one pushing this initiative. Governor Kemp was in attendance yesterday. He's pushing this initiative for Georgia. And we're pushing it because there's a need for this, but then there are also some extreme financial benefits for this. I also attended a legislative meeting just before going to Washington, D.C., talking about taxation in Georgia and how we can reduce property taxes. And I can just imagine what that would do for families if they didn't have to pay property taxes anymore. So that's what we're trying to do here in Columbia County. So for anybody that thinks that this is some grand conspiracy by one political party or the other, and Columbia County is leading the way on it, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to dedicate an entire podcast to this whole thing at some point, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that we did announce yesterday that our community partner for our data center here is Google. Google's an amazing company, and we have been able to work with them to potentially, because they want to invest in our community, so they're already looking at Community Connections to potentially invest in our community, which that's going to help, right?
Yes, it definitely will. I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
And they're big helpers.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I appreciate Green.
Absolutely. So, all right, I'll get into the whole ridiculousness of all that stuff later on, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of open records requests for my travel and all the meals that I ate that, by the way, we the chairman and I paid for on our own. Didn't cost the county anything, but you know what? How many months do I have left? we're getting close to the end. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. I want to thank everybody for listening to the County Compass. If you have questions about anything you've heard here today, if you have questions for Teka, you have questions for me, feel free to reach out to us in our normal channels. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Leave us a review. More importantly, thank you for tuning in and being an engaged part of Columbia County and our community. Your input and participation make our county stronger. So I will ask you to stay safe, stay involved, and keep loving this county as much as I do. Take care.
This has been The County Compass, Columbia County's guide to news, voices, and perspectives. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you taking the time to stay informed about the issues, initiatives, and people impacting our community. And we sincerely hope today's conversation helps you better understand the work being done in Columbia County. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. As always, visit Columbia County's official website or social media channels for additional information. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.